Welcome back on this Friday morning. Our movie critic and our movie expert, Jim Hunter, is joining us now. And Jim, we always like to look at the box office. And really, I think over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, we've gotten a clearer picture of maybe what the movie theater is going to look like post-pandemic. We're not post-pandemic yet, but obviously I think we're moving and trending to where movie theaters and releases are becoming more of a normal thing again, but it's kind of staying the same where we have a lot of these options at home. Where the box office ended up this last weekend?
So the box office was pretty encouraging for Shang-Chi and for another big summer release, but as you note, the day-and-date releases that Warner Brothers have been doing have not been going well. So we'll take a look at the numbers here. We've got Shang-Chi leading the way with $21.6 million. That is a only 30% drop off from the previous week. That's a really good hold for Shang-Chi. It continues to support the idea that Black Widow's grosses may have been affected by the day-and-date release on Disney Premium Plus. Free Guy also holding really, really well. I think we might look back on the summer of 2021 and say that the summer of 2021 was dominated by Ryan Reynolds and Free Guy, because that movie continues to draw audiences. Only at a $5 million gross, but still, that's really good.
Long time ago.
Exactly. This is what box office reporters call it legs. This movie has legs, meaning that it's able to stick around in the top 5 in theaters, even after so long in the theaters. We see that Cry Macho comes in at 3rd place. This was a day-and-date release, both in theaters and on HBO Max. Cry Macho did not do well at the box office.
This is the Clint Eastwood movie, right?
Exactly, yeah. So this is the Clint Eastwood film, directed and starring Clint Eastwood. He did not write the film. And then, of course, rounding out the box office is Candyman and Malignant. And so we're taking a look at the trailer for Cry Macho.
Have you been able to see it? What do you think?
Actually, yes, I have. And I cannot recommend it. It was only recommended at a 55% rate on Rotten Tomatoes. I cannot recommend it because there's just way too much exposition. This film was terribly written. There's a lot of really clunky dialogue, really expository dialogue. One event doesn't necessarily lead to the following event. You know, when you're crafting a story, you want each event to follow logically from the previous one.
Have some consequence, I suppose, right?
Exactly, and it just doesn't. And a lot of the supporting cast is really weak. Clint Eastwood only does one take, and you can really tell. Some of these are not necessarily experienced actors in the supporting cast, and the Eastwood character isn't really fully explored, so some of his decisions at the end don't really make a ton of sense. So this is not a film that really worked for me. It's not a film that I would recommend either on streaming services or in the theaters.
Well, let's talk about Cop Shop. That's one we didn't see in the top 5, and it came out last week. But I have to admit, like, part of me, Jim, doesn't really remember what this movie's about. Like, it's forgetful in some ways. Do you think the audience out there saw it this way? This is a Gerard Butler movie,
Yes, this is a Gerard Butler movie. And, you know, if I tell you there's a Gerard Butler action film, you sort of go, okay, that's another as you say, forgettable film. But this one, it's actually not as bad as you would think it is, from the previews and from some of the critic recommendations. Well, the critic recommendations actually sided with it. It's an 81% rate on Rotten Tomatoes. But this is a film that I ended up liking okay. Wow. Yeah, I mean, this is the typical, you can't judge a book by its cover or a movie by its trailer. The real show stealer from this film is Alexis Louder. She is the police officer. She's the cop in Cop Shop. She's the African-American woman whom we saw earlier in this trailer. There she is right there. Really briefly, she actually steals the show in this film. The two male counterparts, played by Frank Grillo and Gerard Butler, takes second billing to Alexis Louder, and it's her performance that I really liked. Overall, this film wants to be Reservoir Dogs, and it's just not. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have some redeeming qualities. And so I would mildly recommend it for people who like films like Reservoir Dogs and action films. Mildly recommend. For me, it's a 2.5 out of 5 star film.
That's higher than I thought you were going to say, though. That's what I'm saying. It shows it surprised you a little bit. Do you think the plot had a good amount of twists and turns? We talked about Cry Macho, and you felt like there was a lot of exposition. This movie, I would think, has very little. What'd you think?
Yeah, like there's enough twists and turns in this film. It's not really a twisty film as much as it's trying to be both a character exploration and also an action-packed film in other parts of it. So when it's a character exploration, Alexis Louder's character really takes center stage, and when it's an action film, there are some pretty interesting action sequences in the film. So it's a mild recommendation. So
is this Gerard Butler with an American accent?
Yes.
Every movie he does one of those. I'm just like,
doesn't particularly work, does it?
It's similar to Liam Neeson's, right? They're both, you know, from the same place. We will have a really interesting preview. I think this movie coming up in a few minutes is super interesting. I think to a lot of you at home it will be too.